Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? Welcome back to the Health by Haven podcast. I hope you all are having a happy, healthy summer. When this episode releases, I'll be on the Italian coast in Monte Rosso soaking up the sun. But I recorded this episode with Sarah in July, and I have just been bursting at the seams to share it with you all. Sarah Stebbins-Avilla is an integrative wellness practitioner who helps women bridge the gap between physiological health and emotional well-being to support whole body healing. With certifications in functional nutrition counseling and emotional freedom techniques, or EFT, she specializes in nervous system regulation, hormone balance, and rewiring the subconscious patterns that keep women stuck in cycles of burnout, stress, and self-doubt. I am so thrilled to finally share this conversation with you. I feel so aligned to Sarah and her story, and I'm sure you'll be able to connect with her as well. She speaks all about her drive to achieve and how it led to burnout in her corporate job. She talks about how she became interested in wellness to heal her own body and how that led to her earning multiple nutrition certifications and ultimately how she pursued a certificate in EFT. She talks about what the heck EFT is and the science behind how tapping helps calm the nervous system. I promise you will learn so much from her in this episode, so please enjoy my conversation with Sarah. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us on the Health by Haven podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk more and learn more about you, and also I think what you're doing is so awesome with empowering people like in health and making things accessible, because it's definitely, the health and wellness space can be a little iffy, right?
Oh my gosh, so much so, which was like the whole reason why I started this podcast. And you're so sweet to say that. But yeah, it can get convoluted. There's so much information out there. You don't know who to trust or who to listen to. And there's conflicting advice. And so I'm so thrilled to get to chat with you today. My acupuncturist, Rebecca, was like, oh, you guys need to know each other. So I just know we're going to have the best conversation. And so to get things started for people who are listening who maybe don't know you, can we just start from the beginning? Like, give us a little bit about you and why you got into the world of wellness, of nutrition, and of how like the mind and body is interconnected.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to try not to give my whole life story here.
No, this is your time. Take as much time as you want.
Okay, so I am an integrative wellness practitioner, and my background is in holistic health coaching, functional nutrition, and emotional freedom techniques, which is also known as EFT, or I think more commonly known as tapping. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't someone who like graduated college and was like, I want to be a health coach. Like, I grew up an athlete. I played competitive soccer all my life through college, and I was much more focused on like, what does success mean? And for me, success meant like climbing the career ladder as quick as possible and making as much money as possible. And when I literally graduated college and I started my first job the Monday afterwards. So I graduated on Saturday and I started my first job on Monday. Like, that was like how much of like kind of like the overachiever, high achiever that I was, that I was just like, I need to get started and I need to rush and I just need to do this as quickly as possible just to like prove that I'm worthy. Mm-hmm. Although I don't think that was like the narrative that I was telling myself at the time. So I like jumped right in and had no idea what I was doing. And I was in like pharmaceuticals, which is so interesting, because I don't want to say I'm against pharmaceuticals, but I definitely go the more holistic, like alternative route. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that I like rush to immediately, like when I'm working with clients or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In that job, I was, well, let's put it this way. I was fired after 6 months because I had no idea what I was doing. And I think that kind of really like wrecked my confidence, especially as like newly graduated.
Yeah, of course.
And at the time I'm originally from Northeastern Pennsylvania. So I got fired. I got out of a 3-year relationship that wasn't like I got broken up with, and was just looking to kind of like recreate myself.
Yeah.
And so I moved to New York City, and started working right away. And essentially what started happening was that I was in a job where I wasn't really getting paid that much. But my self-worth was so wrapped up in what I produced and what I achieved and how it looked on paper and how much money I got paid and what my title was, that I essentially pushed myself into burnout because I was working like 15, 16-hour days.
And I think what you're saying right now, like so many people can relate to, right?
Yeah, but like you would think that that experience would like turn the light bulb on in my head, but it didn't. I think because I grew up an athlete, I was always like thinner. So like I associated my weight with my health. And because I was thinner, I didn't think that like I was unhealthy. And this all started kind of like crash down on me because I had always had like really heavy menstrual cycles, like a lot of like really painful periods. I would get really bad headaches, to the point where I like could not go to work. And I just thought like, that's just how it is. Like, that's how it is to be a woman. Like, this is so common. It must be normal. And so like that was happening. I had left that job that was like really draining me and gone to a different job. And I also started, so I was like in my early 20s, I started having really bad digestion problems, like really bad bloating, like odorous. I think when like as a woman to have like odorous gas is like really embarrassing.
Right.
Like that's the story we tell ourselves. So I had all these like digestive gut problems happening, really bad periods. I had cystic acne from like my teens through my early 20s. So like there were a lot of things that I was just like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I don't want this to be my reality. So it's really funny. My now husband, but boyfriend at the time, it was like January 1st of 2014. And we decided that we were going to go on a 3-day juice cleanse.
At typical like New Year's resolution time.
Typical New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Because my boss at the time of that job was on a 10-day juice cleanse. And I was like, girl, you're crazy. Like, no way I could do that. But I'll try like a 3-day juice cleanse. And that felt like manageable. And I think that sort of at that time kind of jump started me and got me interested, because even though I was like starving on day 1, by day 3, like I feel like, I don't know, I felt like I was just like more in flow. Like I felt like my energy was better. I felt like my digestion was better. And that started me into this path of like going down and like starting to cook more for myself, like eating a lot more vegetables. 2014, I think, was the year that like kale had its breakthrough. And like,
kale was like having a moment for a while there.
And I ate a lot of kale and like all these things. And it was really interesting, but I watched like my gut issues basically disappear within a month. And then my skin cleared up. And I had never been taught that like the food that I ate impacted like how I felt in my body or what like appeared on my skin. It was always like, if you don't feel good, take a medication.
Yes.
I was never taught these things. And because I was thin and an athlete, I just considered myself healthy. And that whole experience, like I got really into health and wellness and nutrition specifically. So fast forward a couple years, I was like, well, I don't want to go back I don't want to go back to become an RD because I don't want to be in debt. Like I was already in a lot of debt from undergrad. And I didn't want to go into more debt. So I pursued, through like the Institute of Integrative Nutrition.
Yeah.
I pursued the holistic health coaching through that. And I tell like everybody that, but like it was like a toe dip into the water of like the health and wellness space. I think it really opened my eyes to show like how big it was. Like your health wasn't just determined by like what you ate and how you exercise. It was so much wider than that. And I've always been someone who like when I learn something and if I'm passionate about it, like I want to like know it inside and out. Like I want to go like the depths to understand it. Not so much or for myself, but also if I'm like working with someone, I want to be able to explain the why. So that was in 2018 that I got that. And then fast forward a couple of years, in 2019, I got married. I got pregnant pretty much right away. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And I had a baby in June of 2020, which was
my gosh,
right in the middle of it.
Yeah. Oh, such a trying time, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I was living in Northern California, and California went like, everything was shut down.
Yeah.
So, and all my family was on the East Coast. So my sister did actually come out to like help with it, but like I didn't really get that like community that I think I would have had if I had a baby at like a different point. Like I had a virtual baby shower and
oh my god,
you know, like I didn't have that experience.
Yeah.
And I think what I realized was that I had my son and like things were, you know, relatively fine. And I was also like still in corporate at the time. Like I was working for like an ed tech company. And I was in like a pretty, I think, high stress role. But it was like stress was normal for me.
Yeah.
And what happened was, I mean, being in California was nice because I essentially got 5 months of maternity leave that was either all paid or partially paid. And I'm really grateful for that. But when I did go back to work, what I realized was that I no longer had the same like drive and I no longer had the same like energy to put into my work that I did before. And I think there was part of me, it was because I was like so invested in like the health and wellness and wanting to build this business.
Yeah.
But there was also the other part of me that was like, well, I need to make money. So like I have to do the health and wellness coaching or whatever I'm building right now alongside the being in my corporate job, alongside being a mom. Like, you know?
Yeah. Okay, Sarah, I feel like we have such similar backgrounds and like you're like looking inside my mind, like this whole story. I'm relating to you so much. But so were you trying then to like start health coaching with clients while you were working in this full-time role then, like after you went through IIN?
Yeah. And actually, like, oh my God, I look back at this and I'm like, was I crazy? So I had my son in 2020, June of 2020. In November of 2020, when I was going back to work and realizing like how kind of like miserable and misaligned I was in my like corporate tech career, I was like, okay, well, I had learned like enough in IIN, but I hadn't learned like the deeper parts of like how food works in the body and like I knew how to tell people how to eat healthy and like what to do to support their health, but I didn't know like, okay, like about blood sugar balance or hormone health or like helping them to understand like how do we get rid of the migraines? Like how do we help the body to balance and heal? So I signed up for a functional nutrition certification program.
Uh-huh.
It was 5 months postpartum. So it's like kind of like in the way, like I did this to myself,
Yeah.
but I finished that program in like 7 months and got certified. And it was like kind of like the missing piece that I felt like I needed in order to feel confident in coaching people
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one. So at the time, what I did was, yeah, I got certified. I started working with people one-on-one again. And I had just like a few clients that I would just kind of like fit into my schedule where I could like
Mm-hmm.
puzzle piece them in based on like when I had meetings.
Yeah.
And but there was like this like emotional component because I like felt guilty about it. Like I felt
Mm-hmm.
guilty that I wasn't like giving all to my corporate job. Felt like that they were going to find out and I was going to get in so much trouble and I was going to get fired and so there was like this part of me that was like so passionate about
Mm-hmm.
the health and wellness coaching and really wanting to pursue that. And then this other part of me that like, I don't know, it felt like I was like cheating on them.
Yes. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So eventually what happened was though that kind of like that whole dynamic of like being a new mom, wanting to build this business and also being in my corporate job, trying to like stay afloat with like bills and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
essentially drove me into like burnout.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that a lot of my like self-worth came from like what I produced and what I achieved and not
Yeah.
internally who I was. And that was also keeping me like stuck in a burnout cycle. And what happened was I went on a medical leave for my
Mm-hmm.
job. And that like gave me the space to, I was working with like a couple of clients at this point, but like it really gave me the space to like focus on myself,
Yeah.
like, and to like put into place, I think the habits that I needed in order to support like my physical body so that like I was getting good sleep at night and my hormones were like starting to rebalance themselves. So I was like focusing a lot on blood sugar balance and like exercising and all the things that like I was helping people with. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the one thing that I noticed was despite me doing all of those things to support like my physical body, that the mental and the emotional voices almost
Mm.
got stronger and louder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the part that I didn't really know how to like shift out of. So what I did was like, I think what I normally do is like, okay, like when I want to better understand a part of myself, I go and learn as much as I can about it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I've always been like proactive in that way. So
Mm-hmm.
like, I found this podcast that I really related to that talked about like neural reprogramming.
Do
So
you
like,
mind sharing? I'm so curious.
yeah, it's called the Expanded Podcast.
Lacey Phillips.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, crazy. Okay. I'm literally listening to a different podcast episode, but they have like her co host on the podcast on the show right now. So
Jessica.
wild.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started listening to that and started learning about like kind of like how essentially like our childhood programming is connected to like our self-worth and like what we think about ourselves and our emotions and all of these things. And then I started listening to that. I started just like reading a bunch of books that were more so on like the mental and emotional side. And then I did start going to therapy, but I'm like, there's nothing wrong with therapy. I think therapy is great. But for me, it was like I was so hyper aware of all of my like blocks and limiting
Mm.
beliefs and even like what triggered them. But I felt like once I got into the pattern in the loop, that I couldn't get myself out. So it
Mm.
was like no amount of talking about it. It only made me more aware of it, which made me more
Yeah.
frustrated. I didn't
Yeah.
have like a tool that could like help me move out of that pattern or to break that pattern and create a new pattern. And I forget what I think I was like on Instagram scrolling, and I came across like a practitioner that did EFT and and I was like, oh, what's that? Like I started to get curious about that, and like went down that rabbit hole and started learning more about it. And I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. I'm a little skeptical, but like, it sounds really interesting. Maybe I'll just start doing like the YouTube tapping videos. And that's kind of like where I started. And it was helpful. I think I felt calmer, and less anxious, but I was still stuck in the pattern and in the loop.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like I'm going to try to find someone that I can work with one-on-one, because I think that's really the key for me is for me to like experience this fully, I need to work with someone one-on-one. So this was about like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I started working with an EFT practitioner one-on-one. And at the time she was an EFT practitioner that focused on the business side of things.
Okay.
So like, cause like one of the things that I noticed in my business was that, there were like places that I was like afraid to show up because I didn't feel like I was the expert. Like I didn't feel like I had enough certifications or enough degrees.
Like imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome to be talking about these things. So that would prevent me from showing up. And then I wanted to become more visible, but I knew that like I had to start using my voice in places and that I think takes a lot of vulnerability to do that.
Absolutely.
To talk about something that you love and to put yourself like on the stage to talk about those things, because there are inevitably going to be people that are be like, I don't agree with you, I don't like you, but you can't control all those things. And so I wanted to work on I wanted to like widen my reach. So like visibility was like a really big thing for me. I also had a lot of like money blocks. So like I felt guilty asking for money. I felt like I was a burden on other people if I charged them like, a higher dollar amount to get like a transformation, which I think like when you think about it, a transformation is priceless, right? It's like if I can pass the block and I don't encounter it anymore, that's like something that I consider priceless, and you have to put a dollar amount on that.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to charge something for it, like your time and your energy is worth something. So it was like selling myself wasn't something that I was like comfortable with, like asking for money, even like receiving it. Like I would like discount and like do all these things that, when you pair the to be magnetic, the expanded work, manifestation, and like trying to like manifest either like your ideal business or lifestyle or whatever it is like I was keeping myself in like low self-worth behaviors, and rather than coming from a place of like I know that I deserve this and I'll attract the right audience when I like stand in my worth and I stand in my power. So I was working with this EFT practitioner, and it was really, really interesting, especially like, because I believe in like manifestation and all of that. When you start doing like the neural reprogramming work to like come back to your authentic self, like how doors start to open up. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to increase my visibility. And I didn't really put on paper like how I was going to do that. It was just like, I want to increase my visibility and I want to talk more about this stuff. And I started working with that practitioner, and I don't even know what we worked on that session, to be honest. But literally like the next, like a week later, a friend of mine who was doing annual wellness retreats up in Vancouver, Washington, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, I really want to teach EFT at our annual wellness retreat. I can't find anyone locally. Would you want to come up for it and like teach? And I was like, yes, I do. Like even though I was like, still terrified to be on stage.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was like the first time that I had taught an EFT workshop. I wasn't certified yet. So that was like even more like, am I allowed to do this? Am I qualified?
Yeah.
Is it out of my integrity? Like I think all of those questions came up. And so it was like 130 women that I got to
Amazing.
teach about this. And it was like, as I like worked more with Jess, who at the time was my EFT practitioner, like we worked through all of that. We worked through
Mm-hmm.
like the fear of like, are they gonna like me? Like the whole like the people pleasing, like the good girl
Mm-hmm.
syndrome, I think all of these stories and beliefs that I had picked up when I was younger, that I was like shrinking myself rather than doing the things that lit me up.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I could talk to you all day. I feel like so connected to your story, and I'm sure that so many people listening do as well. And thank you for like vulnerably sharing all of that, because I think all of us to a certain extent have these thoughts in our head like, oh my gosh, am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Imposter syndrome, like I maybe am not feeling aligned in this career that I thought I wanted or that I've worked so hard to get, and I'm afraid to like make a leap and do something totally different and have to quote start over. All of these things I think people could really connect to and relate to. And also, like, I want to get deeper into like EFT for people who have not heard about this, because I think to your point, like traditional talk therapy is so helpful for so many people in so many different ways. I have been to therapy in different times of my life as well when I've been going through different things, and have had maybe like a similar feeling to you where I'm like, I know, like, it's like almost like two parts of my brain, right? Like the logical part of my brain, I know, like, this is what I'm doing, this is what the issue is. And then the other part of my brain that's like, and yet I'm still worrying about XYZ. And so I think that it's a great modality for a lot of people and for different scenarios of your life. However, if someone's listening and they have tried therapy and it hasn't really like moved the needle for them, and maybe it's just they didn't find a therapist they connect to, because I also recognize that, but like maybe they need to find some sort of different modality that like might be an amazing breakthrough for them, and perhaps that's EFT. And so for people who are listening who are like, well, literally what is that, like, can you kind of break it down?
Yeah, for sure. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And it's essentially like, it's funny that you came to me from Rebecca, because Rebecca does acupuncture, right? So
Mm-hmm.
with EFT, I'm going to call it like tapping.
Yeah.
Um, we're tapping on acupuncture meridian endpoints.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the points that we're tapping on are the same points that they put needles in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's essentially like acupuncture, but for your emotions. So, like, if we think about, like you just mentioned, like this thing that I'm like worrying about,
Mm-hmm.
like you experience that thing, and then like kind of like your instantaneous reaction maybe is to like worry about it. It's like there's
Mm-hmm.
no space between like the trigger and your response.
Mm.
And the reason why it's like that is because that's a very well worn neural pathway in your brain.
Okay.
It's like something that you learn at some point in your life. I need to be worried about this. I need to be anxious. And when we think about like the emotions of like worry, anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, rejection, those are all essentially emotions that communicate to our nervous system that we're not safe.
Mm-hmm.
And like our brain and our body's number one priority is to keep us safe at all times. So like, I know it sounds like, what do you mean keep us safe? Like, of course I'm safe. I'm just like worrying about my bills, right? Like, I'm not like in a life or death situation. The problem is that our nervous system, our survival response has not evolved since our caveman days. It does
Mm-hmm.
not know the difference between being like chased down an alley by a murderer and like the debt collector is coming. Like, does not know the difference between those two things. And it's all about how we perceive those different things. So like, before we started recording, one of the things we talked about was like slow mornings. Like, I think one of like the ways that we keep our nervous system dysregulated a lot is by rushing ourselves.
Yeah.
Rushing from place to place to place, like trying to get there as quickly as possible. And like not knowing that us rushing from place to place to place is actually keeping our nervous system in a fight or flight state. So EFT really works to work on those emotions. So like in that rushing example, it's like I'm rushing, like I used to do this, like I had to get my son to school by like 8:30, like daycare by 8:30 so that I could get to work by 9. And if I didn't get to work by 9, like the story in my head that I was telling myself was that you are going to be late. You are going to get in trouble. You are wasting their time. Like for like, the meeting that I had or whatever, like you cannot be late because you are going to be wasting their time and then they're going to be mad at you. So it was like, but I was so stuck in this like pattern of just like rushing to get there.
Yeah.
So EFT helps us to interrupt that pattern.
Okay.
So it's like you can experience an emotion and feel comfortable. Like one, you can experience an emotion and then create space between how you want to respond. So do you want to respond in a way that is like supportive for like the way of living that you want? Or do you want to respond in a way that's going to further reinforce that pathway that says, if I'm late, they're going to be mad at me? So like what we can do is we can work on like present day emotions. So if that's like worry, anxiety about something specific, about like a fear. So like for entrepreneurs and like I want to like speak more on stages, but I'm scared to do that. Oftentimes we're feeling scared about like the end action. We're gonna resist all the other steps that we have to take to get there.
Yeah.
So the emailing the person, to putting together a presentation, to like all of those steps that stand in between us doing that end goal. If there's like a part of us that doesn't feel like we deserve it, or that they're going to reject us, or anything that doesn't help our nervous system feel safe, we're going to resist all those steps and we're going to procrastinate. Then it's almost like we created these patterns and these behaviors at some point in time to help us stay safe, to help us stay loved and accepted and all of those things. But as an adult, it's not really supportive for how we're trying to grow anymore. So like EFT helps us to regulate those emotions. So we like work through the fear or whatever that like emotion is that's not keeping us from feeling safe. And a lot of times it's like when we're not feeling safe, that feeling lives in the body. So where we think of like talk therapy as a like top down process that's really focused on like mind and mindset and building awareness, EFT is what we consider a bottom up process, or like a somatic process, where we're helping to connect the mind and the body. Because a lot of times with anything that's based out of fear or anxiety that activates our nervous system into that survival response is that there's like a tightening in the chest, or your heart beating really fast, or your palms getting really sweaty, or that like knot in your throat. And a lot of times when we experience those things, our mind will make up a story around why we're experiencing those things in order to make sense of it. So like I work with a lot of people who are like very rational, logical thinkers. Like, I know I shouldn't be feeling this way. Like I feel this way.
Yeah.
And the thing that it's like, we don't always have to understand why something's happening to us. Like just like helping to like move that emotion out of your body with tapping. So like the whole kind of like went this way. The whole thing with like tapping, when we're tapping on these points, essentially what it's doing is it's sending a calming message to your amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain. It's the part of your brain that signals your survival response. And it essentially turns it off. So it turns off your stress response. And there are hundreds of evidence-based studies that have been done that shows just 5 minutes of tapping can turn your stress response off. And when they compare even just like an hour of clinical EFT tapping, like doing one-on-one with someone, it can reduce your cortisol levels by up to 43% in one session.
Amazing.
Which is like, and cortisol, for people who don't know, is the hormone that's released when your stress response is activated.
Yeah.
So it turns off your stress response. And when your stress response is on, what happens is your prefrontal cortex, which is the area of your brain that's responsible for emotional regulation, for creativity, for processing new information, for decision making, for rational and logical thinking, turns off. So it's like when we're stuck in that like emotion and that fear and that worry, we actually can't really logically think of a good solution because we're in a fear response and our body's only priority is to keep us alive.
Yeah.
So it's going to do what it needs to do to keep us alive. So like when we turn that stress response off, we can, and that area of our brain comes back online that helps us to better process what's going on. We can start to basically reintegrate, but also to help us understand, okay, like maybe like what are the experiences that I've had growing up that may have created like a belief, or when is a time that I felt rejection for like being who I was, like from when I was younger. So like we can tap on present emotions, we can tap on and present experiences, we can tap on past emotions and past experiences, and we can also tap on, I think this is really cool, is hypothetical or like situations, because your brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined.
Okay, amazing. I'm so glad that you shared like all of the science behind this as well, because I think people could like hear this or like see a quick, snippet of a reel on Instagram or something and be like, wow, that's like so woo-woo. Like they look crazy. Like I'm not going to do that. Like how is that working? All that stuff. So I think like breaking it down really simply and saying like, no, like these are the actual like parts of your brain that are turning on or turning off with different emotions, and then how the tapping's helping regulate that, and like giving people the tools to actually like get themselves out of, a loop or a spiral or things like that aren't serving them. And so talk to us more about the future scenarios, because as somebody who has experienced like anxious tendencies and worries, like that is typically about the future or about a scenario that, you've really honestly made up in your head of like what you're worried about possibly happening.
Yeah. So because our brain doesn't know the difference between like real and imagined, it's like anytime, like for example, think of like, I think a breakup is an easy example. It's like you get broken up with, and that triggers like feelings of like unworthiness and anxiety and all of that. So that happens to you. And then you go and talk to your friend and to this friend and this friend and this friend. And every single time we talk about it, every single time we like sit and think about it and think about all the different things that happened along the way, our brain treats those as separate experiences. So it's like you've been broken up really with once, but now it's happened actually 10 times. Because of all the times that you've talked about it and sat and thought about it and all of that. So when we think about like future situations, because understanding that the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined, if there's like something that either you want to do or you're scared to do, or something that that you have anxiety around doing.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, what we can do is basically start tapping on, like, I feel anxious about, I don't know, stating my boundaries. I feel
Mm-hmm.
anxious about, like, so we like name the emotion and how we're feeling, and then we connect it to the experience. So it's like, okay, we tap through that emotion. We also rate it based on, like, from 0 to 10, how distressing that is for you. And that really just helps us to have a scale
Okay.
of, like, where you are when we start versus where you are when we move on to the next thing. And that number is important because, like, what I tell clients is, like, I work with a lot of, like, people pleasers, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, I want to be a good client. I want that number to go down. But the number is really important because EFT works best when we get really specific. So when I was doing YouTube tapping, although I was feeling calmer, it wasn't really specific to my experiences and what created those fears and those worries. So by getting really specific, that's how the number starts to go down. And
Okay.
essentially, like, we're rating, like, the emotional distress or how true we feel that belief is. And the goal with, like, belief work is, like, we want to feel like we 100% believe that, like, whatever is possible for us, or, whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. With, like, an emotion that we're trying to work through, like anxiety, like, we want to get that anxiety level from an 8 down to, like, less than a 3
Mm.
about when we think about doing that thing.
Okay.
So, like, that's what we work on with EFT. We work on, like, the body sensation. We work on the emotion. We work on the emotion that we feel about doing the thing, the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, it's like, okay, now when we go and we encounter that thing in the future, that emotion, that fear, or those fear-based emotions that keep our nervous system dysregulated and prevent us from taking action, no longer exist. So it's like, without the fear, without the anxiety, taking that action feels a lot easier, right?
Absolutely.
I work with clients on things as small as, like, I really want to work out, but I need, like, the perfect situation, like, I need the perfect environment, or, like, I have all this resistance around, like, working out. I really want to work out, like, 3 to 4 times a week, but I keep getting stuck in all these other things that need to get done. And, like, you can
Mm-hmm.
think of all those little things that need to get done as, like, our brain. There's, like, a part of us that, like, doesn't want to do it, or maybe because we feel like we need to do it perfectly, that we, like, resist doing it. So we kind of
Mm-hmm.
create, like, all these, like, roadblocks for ourselves
Yeah.
to not even get started in the first place.
Yes.
And then we say, like, oh, we don't have time, but it's like, we have the time, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what are the things that we're prioritizing that aren't actually a priority?
Absolutely. I love that you're giving this example because I feel like, and that you talked about to be magnetic and manifesting things that you want for your life and everything, because I do feel like it's so interconnected. And sure, at surface level, it can sound like so woo woo, but there is so much, like you said, like science and research behind, like, all of this, like reprogramming your thoughts and your emotions, and like how it can stop you from, like, stopping yourself, basically, like
Yeah,
recognizing those things, like you said, that are getting in your way from, like, what your actual priorities are.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, I think it takes a lot of, like, I think, one, self-awareness, but
Mm,
also, like, self-compassion to, one, say, like, okay, I'm a part of this problem,
yeah.
and, like, I accept these parts of myself, like, even the parts that I'm not proud of, or the parts that, like, are self-sabotaging. Like, I accept these parts of myself, like, they're trying to protect me. There's, like, an inner child in here that's, like, trying to protect me, but she no longer needs to protect me. Like, I'm safe as I am, but, like, it's like your nervous system doesn't know that. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it is like we're reprogramming like neural beliefs and we're like working through emotions, but like using EFT at like a deeper level, like a clinical level, is like we can really go back into the experiences that created those like core wounds and those beliefs to begin with and address them there. And when we address them there, because it's like a spider web, they're like all connected. So when
Mm-hmm.
we address like the root, then the web starts to dissolve.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have to work on like every single experience that created that belief, I'm not good enough. We can work on like a few, and then it starts to become easier. It's like then you actually start to question like when the I can't do that because I don't feel like good enough, or like I rarely think like the words like sometimes they do, but like most of the time it's not like the thought is coming up like, oh, I'm not good enough. It's coming up as like I don't have enough experience, or am
Mm-hmm.
I really qualified to talk about that? Or like they're coming up as like different, questions and
Mm-hmm.
fears. Um, but like when we work on that root and we start to work on some of those experiences that may be completely unrelated to what it is that you're trying to do now, like what your goal is now, it's amazing just like how quickly, like when we like interrupt that pattern and then we can create a new one and then we reinforce and repeat, which helps to like deepen that, like how quickly we can start to move out of patterns that we feel like we've been stuck in for so long.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm sure it's compounding and it's snowballing, and once
Yeah.
you start to see progress or success or however you may frame it, like it makes you want to keep working on it. So that's incredible. For people listening who are like, okay, when you work with someone with EFT, like what are you doing exactly? Like how are you rewiring your nervous system, like to get past those things? I know it's really different, like you mentioned, if you're doing like a general YouTube video versus like an individual, like one-on-one session. But how are you deciding how to help that, like move that client through some of their blocks? And like, what does that look like? I know this is a podcast and it's audio and not video, but like for tapping points, is it the same points and it's different phrasing? What does that look like from person to person?
Yeah. So when it comes to like rewiring neural pathways and rewiring blocks, the like our brain cannot do that if we're stuck, if our nervous system is dysregulated. So like whenever I'm working one-on-one with a client, like first we're creating just like level setting and like talking about what are the things currently in your life that are like stressing you out.
Mm.
What are the things that like what do you feel anxiety about in your daily life? Like so like we're working to like calm the nervous system first and to regulate it before we go into those blocks and those beliefs. So like the tapping points remain the same client
Mm-hmm.
to client. It's just that the words that we use change. So
Okay.
the words that we use just become very specific to their experience. I'll use myself as an example. When I wanted to increase my visibility and that was a goal of mine, and I got that opportunity, and then, my new goal became I want to feel confident standing on stage talking in front of 130 women about
Mm-hmm.
you. Then I start to ask myself, well, what is the current belief that I have about it? Like, how do I currently feel about doing that? I feel extreme fear. I
Yeah.
have like so much anxiety. Like when I like close my eyes and picture myself standing on that stage, I feel like my heart is racing. I feel like my chest is tightening. I feel like I'm going to pass out. So like those are like the things that we would start tapping on is like, okay, like how strong is that feeling from 0 to 10? How much of you feels like your heart is beating out of your chest? And I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's like an 8. Okay, so like literally it's like when I think about sitting on stage or standing on stage, I feel so anxious. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally just like talking through your emotions and like thinking about yourself in that situation or doing that thing that you want to do. So we start there and sometimes that can be enough to
Mm-hmm.
like help someone move past it. But most of the time, that fear is tied to something deeper.
Okay.
So we may start there with like imagining using the words and using the experience of what it is that you're doing that's creating that fear and anxiety. But as we move through, like, and I think like when you work with like a clinical EFT practitioner, is that they're trained to ask you specific questions as we're moving through that experience to help you to start to dive deeper. Because a
Okay.
lot of times, like, we can't really access our we can't access our subconscious. Like
Mm-hmm.
in order to access our subconscious, our nervous system has to be regulated, and we have to be like, almost like in that like meditative state.
Yeah.
Like with EFT, it's kind of like an active meditation in a way. Like
Yep.
it's creating those like the same like brain waves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like we might tap through like generally like I feel anxiety about standing on stage. Like what if they laugh at me? What if they don't take me seriously? Like all of like kind of like the questions and like the inner critic that pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Then like I might ask a question like, does this feel familiar?
Mm-hmm.
When is the first time I experienced this?
Mm-hmm.
How old is this feeling? And we can start to go like deeper into like the first time I felt this like heart racing feeling was at the talent show in third grade.
Yeah.
Like they all laughed at me. Like, and that created that like fear of like, I can't be on stage. They're gonna laugh at me. And that's gonna make me feel rejected, which is
Mm-hmm.
like not safe, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's what starts to happen. And like I like to tell clients too, it's like if something is coming up, like when we're asking these questions and they're repeating those questions, and like your brain loves to answer questions. So
Mm-hmm.
like you ask it a question and you're in like a meditative state, like that answer is gonna come up somehow, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really fun when like, we start asking the questions and it's like, and your brain will like a memory might flash or like an experience or be like, oh, this feels like I was young, like I was really young,
Mm-hmm.
elementary school. And like they might not know anything beyond like elementary school, but then we
Yeah.
can start tapping on elementary school. It's like in elementary school, I felt this like heart racing feeling. And then it's like as the nervous system feels safer and safer and safer, and our subconscious opens up, it's like then it can give us more specific details.
Mm.
For some, like, so I'm also, I'm a trauma informed practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, a lot of trauma gets stored in our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes certain experiences and certain clients is that they're like, I don't want to talk about that
Yeah.
because one, I've dissociated myself from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's uncomfortable for me to talk about, like, and there are techniques for that. So there are techniques if someone's experienced trauma and that's created this really deep fear in the body, that we can use techniques to still tap on the trauma without talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing because that's also something like super different from like traditional talk therapy where you are like talking through it.
Mhm. Yeah. And if you think about it, every time you talk about it, it's happening again.
Yeah.
Like your brain doesn't know the difference between real and,
Mm.
which I think makes like somatic work so important when it comes to like anything that created trauma. And it can be like a big trauma or it can be like a small trauma that your body was like, I'm not safe. And that got
Mm-hmm.
like stuck.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, what are some of the points for people who like can't see us
Yeah.
that you are physically tapping on when you're going through this process?
Yeah. So the first one that we always start with is the side of the hand. And it's, you can be the left hand or your right hand, it doesn't matter. But it's essentially below like your pinky and the top of your wrist. It's kind of like this like fleshy area on the side of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we start for when we get started tapping.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next point is like the top of your head. It's like the crown of your head. Um, the next point, it's the inside of your eyebrow. So with the face points, because you can tap on both sides or just one side, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the side of the eye, so it's like that bony part, like right before
Mm-hmm.
your eyeball in the corner. So like not the temples, but like the side of your eye, below your eye, below your nose, below your bottom lip, your collarbone. And then for it's like under your arm, but for women, it's like where your bra strap sits.
Okay.
And then for guys, it's like 4 fingers down.
Okay.
And that's what we call like with tapping, it's called the basic recipe.
Mm.
And those are the points that we always start tapping on. And then depending on how distressing that emotion is or how high it is, I'm we can also add in different points. So like we may start with the basic recipe to like calm the nervous system, but then we might do like some like finger points. And then with clients that have it's more strong and more distressing, I also incorporate eye movements. So if you've heard of like EMDR,
Okay.
it's not EMDR, but like we essentially can incorporate different sorts of eye movements, and it helps to engage both sides of your brain. But it helps to kind of like work through some of those like deeper things that might be a little bit more stressing.
Oh, okay. Very
Yeah.
interesting. I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah. So it's yeah.
And so, how long is this typically? Like, are you cycling through multiple times? What does it look like for people who are like, I need to do this. I want to try this to get past whatever blocks or limiting beliefs I have?
Yeah. So we always kind of take breaks in between each round. But one round might include like tapping through it like 3 to 4 rounds or 4 to 5 rounds. Each round's probably about, I would say, like 5 to 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we like take a pause and we kind of assess where that emotion's at.
Uh-huh.
Um, and if it's stayed the same, then we get like more specific. If it's gone up, then we get more specific. If it's gone down, then we can start to like incorporate other things. But a typical session is anywhere from like 60 to 75 minutes.
Okay.
So in that time frame, we might start with kind of like one issue and just like work through that issue. We may not get all the way through that issue,
Mm-hmm.
but normally what I hear from a lot of people is that it's enough for them to start taking action and feeling less resistance and
Mm-hmm.
like more, I'm going to use the word regulated, but like, or like calm, but like less anxious.
Yeah. Okay. And then are your clients like, are they having homework? Like, are they doing this on their own as well?
Um, it depends. So it depends on the person. Some clients are like, I want to do this at home. Like when I'm in a triggering situation,
Yeah.
I want to do this, and they will do it. When I'm when I'm working with clients, I encourage tapping on your own because I think the more we do it, the more it supports our system. And then like we can, in a one-on-one session, we can go into it like deeper. We can go into like the deeper the like inner child work and shadow work and all of those other things. But most of the time, like the homework that I'm giving, because when it comes to like reprogramming old beliefs, is that whatever you want like your new belief to be or the new behavior, repetition is what
Mm-hmm.
reinforces that and like creates that new belief. And the more we repeat what we want and less repeat of what we don't want, is the stronger that gets and the more automatic it becomes. So oftentimes like the homework that I give people is like, I want you to go out and find evidence that this belief is true.
Mm.
Like, what is it that you want to believe? You want to believe that I'm really good at my job. I'm smart enough. Go out and find the things that reinforce that and really focus on that.
Okay.
It's by focusing on it, that's what helps to reinforce it. And the more we focus on what we want and less of what that old story was, you can think of like neural belief or limiting beliefs or neural pathways as like paths in a forest.
Mm-hmm.
Like the more we repeat it, the more pronounced it gets, and the less we repeat it, the more overgrown it gets. So we want to like help overgrow those old pathways that don't support us, and we want to create more defined pathways that do support us. And the way we do that is by repeating what it is that we want.
And that's such great tangible advice that people can start right now, like doing at home before they even find, if they want to find somebody to work with. So are you still pulling from your nutrition background? Like, are a lot of people coming to you for help with nutrition as well? Or like, what is the majority of your clients? Like, what are they working on?
Yeah. So I would say when clients initially come to me, because I think we can like grasp more the nutrition than like the emotional work. It's like emotional work, I think, is like the intangible.
Yeah.
Is like it's harder to grasp unless you've like experienced it. But most of my clients come to me for hormone imbalances.
Okay.
So the one thing about hormone imbalances that I think most of us focus on is like when it comes to like the holistic way to approach that is like food and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a really important part of it. What women need to realize is female physiology requires that your body feels safe.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a physiological stressor like imbalanced blood sugar or not eating enough food or not getting enough nutrients to produce progesterone. Or it could be your nervous system is chronically dysregulated because of like rushing everywhere or not being able to set boundaries or, holding kind of like the weight of your family and not being able to like delegate. So I would say like a lot of people come to me because they want like the nutrition support, but like when I work with people, it's like I don't just like dive right into like, okay, let's start here. It's like we kind of do a whole like symptom assessment of like what are the things you're experiencing so we can understand like what are the really key foundational areas of hormone balance that are required and like how are you doing in each of those areas. And often what we'll start to see, because I also work with like a lot of like high achievers, is that they're stressed, but they're not calling it high stress because they're used to dealing with high
Yes.
But there are things that like are showing up, at work or at home where they're like, where we start and we start to work on like just like that calming that.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we start to work on calming that, then they get like more interested in like going deeper.
Yeah.
And not everyone wants to go deeper. But I really enjoy working with people who do want to go deeper because there's a lot of like I'll use the word magic, but there's like a lot of magic we can do in stopping patterns that have been repeating for years and years and years with just a few EFT sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all connected, right? So kind of like you said, like we grow up thinking health is just about exercise and what we eat, making sure you get a veggie on your plate, but it's so much more than that. And so I think this whole like nervous system regulation and how your mind and your body is connected is so, so important if you want to be truly well.
Yeah, 100%.
Amazing. Okay, Sarah, I know I've already taken up so much of your time today. So I'm going to move us into some fun little rapid fire questions to wrap us up.
Okay.
All right. Morning or evening workout?
Morning.
Running or walking?
Walking.
Lifting or body weight?
I'm going to say lifting, but I only lift like maximum 15-pound weights. So
It counts. It counts. Juice or smoothie?
Smoothie.
Coffee or matcha?
Ooh, right now it's coffee for me.
Salad or bowl?
Bowl.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Tacos or quesadilla?
Tacos.
An early riser or night owl?
Early riser.
If there are any final words where you're like, People need to know this about EFT. They need to know this about nervous system regulation. Make sure we get everything covered. And then also for people who are listening who are like, this sounds like what I need to be doing, tell us where they can find you and how they can work with you.
Yeah. The thing that probably I didn't talk about is that with EFT, at the end of the day, it's an emotional regulation technique that also works on your nervous system. So I think with a lot of times, like, we're afraid to talk about like the uncomfortable emotions or the things that we don't want to feel. So we like suppress them and push them down. But suppressing them and pushing them down just helps them show up in other ways in other places. So the fastest way to move through an emotion is to allow yourself to feel the uncomfortable and the things that you don't want to feel. And I think tapping is a really great way to allow yourself to do that. And it just helps you to hold space for it, because my practitioner or my mentor, my EFT mentor used to say that is, what you own doesn't own you. So like the emotions that you own, they don't have a hold on you. So if you can help yourself feel safe to feel those emotions, because emotions are a beautiful part of being a human, is that you can still experience those emotions, but not have the same nervous system reaction to them. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of working with me, so they can find me on Instagram is where I'm most active, is Sarah Avilla Wellness. And then for anyone who is interested in working with me, I tend to do kind of like an initial consultation, like an initial 20-minute consultation that helps me just to learn more about you and just to see if it is a good fit. Because, I think, we talked about that with like counselors. It's not always the right fit, right? So like, I usually do that to get started. And then we talk about, okay, like how many sessions should we get started with? I do recommend that people with EFT, while one session can help you, where we create like the most change is starting with at least 3 sessions. Mm-hmm. So I have like packages available for if they're booking more sessions at once. But I talk about all of that during a consultation.
Amazing. Sarah, I feel so aligned. I think we could just talk all day long about this. So thank you so much for your time, for coming on. I know you're going to expand so many people's mindset into trying this and, continuing to improve their overall health and wellness. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.